welcome everybody. We got a special treat for you. This is Austin, James Haines, and the time is now to get free, stay present, move forward. I'm sitting here with Mr. Nigel Bennett. First of all, it's a pleasure to have you here, my friend.
Pleasure to be here, Austin.
I've been looking forward to this. We're going to let this warm up for our live audience, and then we'll do the formal launch for the podcast. So Nigel was just strumming away there
on my new guitar, which I love.
Please.
It's beautiful, isn't it? It's black.
Yes.
It's wood. It's from Schecter, and they just sent it to me, and I'm really enjoying playing it. I've got to wear it in, not wear it out. But a brand new guitar needs playing, you know?
Yes.
In fact, all guitars need playing, really, in my view, but there you go.
Yes, absolutely. And I've just been watching you play. I'm watching the string, how, like, I'm looking at the detail of the guitar.
Yeah.
The strings, the fine, I don't know what material, the black.
It's very new, and I'm sure over time it will get a bit dinged and scratched up and stuff, but that really doesn't matter. It's, as long as it's functional.
Right, it's a character building, right? It gets
I think, and the sound will only get better. If you're precious about them, like a car, a new car, you know, every tiny scratch you're worried about, you shouldn't, because it's going to happen.
Yes,
So, you know.
Yes, exactly. You kind of have to let it happen. So we're going to get into the story here in a couple minutes, and let me see here. Yes, we're good. Yes, we're good now. Okay. So we're going to be getting into Nigel's story here. Although, I mean, let's just, before we warm up here, you can put the guitar down for now, and then what? How long have you been in music?
In music?
Just music in general. Like, would you start?
Well, professionally, since about 1979, when I was in a band called The Members, we signed our first record deal. But in music, as long as I can remember, I apparently started playing the piano when I was I thought it was 5, but my father said I was 3. And then I got a ukulele when I was 7. I wanted a guitar, but I was too small for it. So I was given a ukulele. So as long as I can remember, all my memories back, I've been playing something.
Great.
Yeah.
So we're going to dig into that story, but what I'm going to do here in a minute, I'm going to start the official show launch.
Oh, yeah.
And what we're going to do, we're going to dig into your story, going back a little bit, where you know, I have a book called Flashpoint. There's and it's great for artists because the flashpoint is the moment, like you do the artistry, right? You do this artistry, it's your passion. But then there's a moment that the world finds out about the art in you, and it kind of catches fire, if you will. It's not like how the song starts to chart. I know you got a song that you wrote that was on the charts and top. I think it was in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
all right.
Yeah. So we're going to get into all that. So I'm going to do that right now. Let's get this going. Get the helicopter.
I can hear a helicopter. I was going to say, no sooner than we start.
Like surveillance.
It's SWAT.
It's all good.
SWAT helicopter.
All right, so we're going to get the official launch here of the show and the podcast. Thanks for being here, everyone. Share this. This is going to be a great story, Mr. Nigel Bennett. So we're going to be back right after this official countdown. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Austin James Haines podcast. It's time to get free, stay present, and move forward with Mr. Nigel Bennett. But this story has a lot in it, including reinvention, beating addiction, facing your demons, fulfilling your rock and roll dreams, following your dreams from an early age, and writing the story and surviving, coming out of the other side of the music business with lots of stories to tell. But I just want to share a little bit about your story, Nigel, before we, so I can introduce you to the folks that don't know you.
Okay.
First of all, I love hanging out with you. Number one, you're just a great guy. Just a great guy.
That's
We were
nice
chatting
of you.
before.
Yeah, well, we do hang out.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's-
So
mutual.
we were just chatting before. But let's get into the musical side. I learned that you had originally you tried out for the Sex Pistols, the iconic band of the 70s, Iron Maiden. And then you went on
Talk about diversity.
Right. Exactly.
I just wanted a working band,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then you ended up with the Members.
Yeah.
Who I remember as a youth watching that videos on MTV. When
Working
MTV
Girl.
took off. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you landed with the Vibrators. So it seems like you had your longest run with world tours.
Yeah.
All kinds of success there. And then you had your solo career, which you broke out, which we're going to talk about that in your reinvention. And then you actually toured with Julian Lennon, which was another great musical accolade that you had.
Yeah. Back in the 80s. A lot of stuff happened in the 80s, Austin.
No, what I want to do, though,
Yeah.
because this is what I like to do. You have the musical accolades, but I want to dig into your story.
Okay.
I want to know, like, what was going on kind of behind the scenes. Like, when what were you feeling when you finally landed that position? And then what did you have? Are you willing to go back a little bit and kind of go back through the annals of time here when you first got started?
Well, I never really looked back. Do you mean started with the Members?
Like in other words, you following your path for music. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there had to be something in you. We just talked about it before. You thought, you said, I wanted to follow my own path.
Well, when I was at boarding school, I was in the school band, and we had a guy that played bass who lived in Bristol. I was from London. And he said he knew a singer that had been offered to do a tour for 3 weeks of Southern England with a band. Would I like to? And I said, damn right. So I was 16, and in the school holiday around Easter time, off I went for 3 weeks. And even though I had to sleep in a car a couple of nights, when you're 16, you don't care. And I realized then that's what I wanted to do. So I left school at 17. And for 4 years, just answered every audition there was, including, as you said, the Iron Maiden and the Sex Pistols, and many others. And then the Members I went to, and they went for an audition on the Friday. On the Saturday, they said, we want you to join. Got me a cassette tape. I had to learn all the songs, which were all original. And the first gig was on the Monday night. And the first song I had to start with all these songs in my head. And so that was a on-the-spot learning curve.
So how many days did you have to learn the songs?
2.
2 days.
Yeah.
Here's all of our songs. Learn them.
Yeah, that's right. Gigs on join on the Saturday, play on the Monday. So there you go. And
so yeah, that's great. So I would call that a flashpoint moment.
it was a flashpoint moment, and the Members, we were unusual. We packed out places. We were gigging all over London all the time, and we didn't have a record deal, and we were looking. I think we had an agent to get us gigs, if I remember rightly, but it took a while. And then in 1979, we signed to Virgin Records with Richard Branson, and that was good. And the first thing they did, Devo were on the same label, and they put us on the road immediately with Devo. And I remember watching them from the side of the stage every night, because I learned about professionalism. They were so good at delivering unusual music, but good music. And they, I just really learned a lot. I was there to learn and watch other performers, and being on the road with Devo was great. And and then it all just took off very quickly. We had my dear friend Steve Lillywhite produced our first single, Sound of the Suburbs, and it did really well in the charts in Britain. And if you're on the TV in Britain, then the gigs get packed and you get bigger and bigger gigs. So it all took off very quickly. And then we went on our first world tour, and we made an album, and all the thing. I mean, a band is a band when they're either recording or gigging. Those are the two things bands do.
Yeah,
and we were doing a lot of both.
And it seems like you had a good nucleus, because the other thing bands do is they can fight. because different.
No, we didn't fight.
You agree?
There were 5 of us, and we all got on really well. So that was lucky. I never experienced fighting really.
That's great. And I just had the opportunity to enjoy your playing at Milk Boy, Philly.
Oh yeah,
where you played some of the songs from them. Remember that was a real treat.
Well, I was so glad you showed up. Actually, it was good.
It was a good time.
It was fun.
Time.
You know,
fun.
You're as good as your last gig, aren't you?
That's true, I guess, and in the music business and in any business really. But I just wanted to capture what you were feeling at that time, being at a young age. You know, the emotion of landing with the members, and then now you're swept up in kind of this whirlwind, right, where your dreams start to come true.
Yeah, and it was, but I sort of knew very quickly that wasn't it. I just had this feeling that it wasn't necessarily going to perpetuate. Not because the band fought or anything, but it was too quick and not at all easy. But I just had this instinct, you know, and it went on well for a few years with the members, and then we added a horn section, not my decision. It sounded great, but when you got a horn section, you have to use them all the time. And that means the direction of the music changed. Then we had trouble getting another record deal. And the band kind of disintegrated, is the way to put it. And so I found that very upsetting.
Yeah.
Everything I worked towards hard, and it kind of fell apart.
It fell apart, but not before you wrote a hit single for them, which I think included horns.
Called Radio, it did have horns.
Yeah,
it did very well in Australia. I know it's not the biggest country in the world, but I still get the odd royalty. And it did all right in Europe. It was used as a jingle by the BBC in England, and yeah, I can't remember all the details.
No, yeah, we're not
the
here to get all the
80s were a time of excess. And so everything isn't that clear. And you know what? I don't look back much. I never do, because what we have is now. So in interviews, I'll look back.
Yes.
But it's not like I dwell on the past at all.
No, and I appreciate you doing that, because, you know, and the reason why I do that now is because there's the people that, you know, find themselves in challenges where, you know, there's this, and I think there's this polarity when you go after your dreams. It's not what it's all cracked up to be. And then you evolve into it, though, as you continue with your craft and doing, and that's what I'm kind of feeling with you. Like you love to play the guitar, and you rode the wave of the success. And, you know, and if you love to get into the challenges of that you had, but then now you're on the other side of it, and you're still doing it. So you've evolved. You're still fine tuning your craft.
Well, I don't know what else to do. I'm not trained in anything else, and I still have the same love, if not more, for the guitar than I had as a boy. So that is what, I don't know if it's escapism. It's something I feel at home at. I suddenly realized, if you think how many thousands of hours I've looked down at a piece of wood with 6
Can you pull that guitar up
strings.
again and call the guitar out for the company? I just want people to see this. And
just look down at a fretboard with wires on it. So I'm probably a guitar nerd, but it's just something I really like. And the thing about an instrument is there's no there to get to. You always learn. All the time you learn new things. And that's rewarding.
And you're teaching now too.
Yeah, I teach. Teach others so I can pass something on as I'm older. And it's a joy to see young kids that pick up quickly, some of them, what you're doing and what you show them with enthusiasm.
What kind of guitar is this?
This is, it's a Schecter. I don't know if it has a name, but Schecter, it's funny, they're a brand that can be overlooked because everyone with guitars thinks of Fender or Gibson. But Schecter guitars, I have quite a few because Schecter very kindly give me a few, and I totally love them. They're beautiful. They don't make that many acoustics, but the main guitar I played live is a Schecter Flying V. Now, I've had Gibson Flying Vs, and I've always then got rid of them because hand because you can't play freely.
See. Okay.
And the Schecter is beautifully balanced. And also I have a Schecter Strat that I really like. So between those two, I've got all the sounds covered.
Got it covered. That's great. So I want to welcome you, our audience, for being here live. If you're on the podcast, you definitely want to go over to the YouTube channel. You want to see this beautiful guitar, beautiful guitar. Nigel's holding it up right now. It's got a black, like I would call it a matte black, really smooth finish.
Yeah.
Lots of detail in the strings. Sounds beautiful. Great crisp sound. And you definitely want to see this. And if you are on the video, make sure you come back and listen to the podcast. You can subscribe to the podcast, Austin James Haines. It's available on all platforms. So I'm going to do this a little different. I want to learn because I talked about beating addiction. I want you to hit on that. But before we do that, why don't you tell people where you're going to be playing here locally? Because we're right near Haddonfield, New Jersey here. Where are you going to be playing here coming up?
Medford it's called, isn't it? On the 30th of March. I think it's called Laughs and Lyrics. It's me doing an acoustic show with Steve Cooper, the comedian, doing stand-up. And then we'll do a sort of Q&A, and I think he's interviewing me, but it's an evening of music and comedy. And I'm really looking forward to it because I don't get out much and I need some comedy.
There you go. It's called Laughs and Lyrics. Musician Nigel Bennett and comic Steve Cooper, one night only. If you're familiar, it's right off of Route 70. It's on Main Street in Medford, New Jersey. Those in the area, you'll know where that is. It's at the end of the month, March 30th. It's going to be a great opportunity. So, Nigel, I definitely want to get into what you did. How did you overcome the hardship? You know, this isn't like an official behind the music thing, but
well, you talk about addiction.
Yeah, like riding in the 80s, and you're living the lifestyle, and you had to kind of battle these demons and then reinvent.
Every night there'd be the huge rider in the dressing room, and there was a rule: you don't touch the spirits until after the gig, and only beer before, and all that. In fact, when I first joined them, I wasn't drinking, and so I drank with them, and then there was drugs everywhere in the music business too. So I did all that. And then I told you when the band broke up. And so suddenly there was nothing to focus on every evening, the show. So when you're very young, you can party all night and sleep it off in the day, and you have to be together to play. And I didn't have that. And yet there was still drink and drugs around, and I did lots of it until it nearly killed me. I was wheeled off to rehab only once. I hear about some people that go to rehab lots of times, but I went to rehab in 1986, and it didn't work immediately, but I stopped drinking in 1987. But not knowing much about a 12-step program, I smoked dope, pot. I think dope in America might be something different, for about 12 years, and I stopped everything 24 years ago.
Wow.
But I haven't had a drink in 37 years, and it was the hardest thing I ever did. Addiction is terrible. And I go regularly to AA, and I hear all sorts of amazing stories of people that have also beaten addiction a day at a time. I don't know if you beat it, but you arrest it. And, and it is wonderful. There's just, when you look back at the horrors of being addicted to anything that you have to have, and your world becomes very narrow.
Yeah.
You just think about getting more drink and or drugs. And then you stop all that, and it opens up everything. And you become almost like reborn in a sense, because you start noticing things again that you weren't noticing. Right. And you just feel good, you know? I mean, hangovers are terrible. If you wake up with a blinding hangover, it's like having the flu, and yet right now none of us will want that normally. No. And yet I used to do that every day. Yeah, but that's behind me, I hope. So
it is. Yeah. And was there like a flashpoint moment there, like a critical moment where you one day you said that's it? No more?
Well, a moment of clarity. When I was ill, the doctors, I found out afterwards, had given me a couple of weeks to live. I was emaciated.
They gave you a couple of weeks to live.
Yeah, I hadn't eaten. I didn't know that. I was thin. Wow. It was really a bad dark time, really awful. And then I finally had a moment of clarity, they call it in
Well,
AA, and I realized I was about to
Well, we're
die.
glad you're here, man.
Oh, thank you. But I mean,
overcome
I
that.
don't mind talking about it because it might help others, but it's
Exactly.
not something I dwell on at all.
Good.
But yeah, I'm very lucky because I managed to arrest it.
Yes. So let's talk about the joy of now, like the joy that you're finding in music now. I can overcome that. I think this is because I have a similar story. I mean, obviously I wasn't in music, but I, dealing with alcohol and just getting out on the other side of it. There's just this beauty that you can't. It's this raw beauty. Am I right? You just can't
Absolutely.
explain it.
People, you hear that you suddenly notice nature and stuff.
Right.
I don't mean you turn into a hippie and live in a tent.
You can do that though if you want.
You can if you want, but you just walk around and notice things around you more. Whereas otherwise, before that, things get like a dark tunnel and you don't see much. And now I appreciate the trees looking fantastic in the spring and things I never noticed before.
It is beautiful.
That's all. And every day you wake up feeling fresh with your feelings, be it good or bad, at least you're in that moment.
You're in that moment.
It's not impaired by what you did the day before or the year before.
I want to give a call out here to your beautiful wife, Cheryl. When did you meet Cheryl?
I met her in, I think it was 1983 at the Iroquois Hotel in New York. She was a very young 15-year-old journalist, and she'd blanked away to interview the lead singer, Nick Tesco, who died a couple of years ago. He was a dear friend. And I met her briefly then, didn't see her again until about 13 years ago or so. We reconnected on Facebook, and then she was my manager for a while, and we'd see each other when she was in London or I was over here. And then a few years later, we became an item, and then I proposed to her about 2 years ago, and she said yeah. And I married her, and
that's your real flashpoint moment.
That was it's wonderful, got married, moved to America. I've always loved this country, and I've been here so much. I've seen so much of it, but it's a very hard place to move to. Indeed.
Right.
I think it's probably easier if you crawl under a barbed wire fence in a rancid poncho
some people are doing that
in the South. But if you try and do it the legitimate way, it's not easy. But everything that's not easy can be worth fighting for.
That's right, but you're here.
I live here and I love it.
Yeah, and you're right in Haddonfield, which is a great place to be.
And I had no idea. Yes, Haddonfield is beautiful.
Right.
Since then, I've seen a lot of other towns I'm glad I don't live in. And I live here because Cheryl was living here, and she discovered it. And it's fabulous in Jersey of all places.
Yeah,
New
Jersey. So I got my friend Lisa's on here. She's a huge music fan. She's saying right on. We have Kay Gibbons, and it's interesting because I'm doing a thing later tonight. Just a quick promo. We're doing an auction tonight for my friend Candace Donovan, and I didn't plan this, but Candace was given 6 months to live 30 years ago, and she was diagnosed with ALS, and she beat it. And
what's ALS?
ALS. It's like Lou Gehrig's disease.
Okay, I don't know. I'm not.
It's a debilitating your nerve disease where people don't live long. Anyway, she beat the odds, but she's getting displaced from her home. So we're doing an auction tonight, and I'll have to get the artwork. It's downstairs before the show is over. I want to show people that.
Is that what you're auctioning?
Yeah, it's called A Bee in Autumn. It's a beautiful painting and with the poem, but I'll show that before we close out. I want to get into with the time that we have, just your joy of music now, like how it's evolved, and is there any differences now versus then, and what you're most passionate about?
Well, I love playing the acoustic much more. As a youngster, it was all the electric guitar. I mean, I just love the guitar. It's such a versatile instrument. From Spanish guitar like Segovia to Paco de Lucia to Jimi Hendrix and everything in between. And there's a guitar for every possible mood you could be in. And I just love its sound and versatility. It's always been that way for me. And it's just a passion.
So is there any genre that you uncovered that surprised you, that you really got into with the guitar, or you kind of just loved all of it from the beginning?
I'm pausing because I'm thinking of your question. I grew up as a boy listening to Jimi Hendrix. Now, Jimi Hendrix took the guitar from being plinky plonky to showing the world what the electric guitar was capable of. And I don't think there's a living guitarist today that can't attribute part of his style to what Hendrix did, particularly the electric guitar. He just opened it up. And yes, there've been lots of other people like Eddie Van Halen and so on and so forth, but he really was something. Those sort of people like Mozart only come along every once in a blue moon.
Great point.
And Jimi Hendrix was incredible.
Yeah, good point.
So
yeah.
I listened to him as a boy, and it blew me away. The other one, I like Dave Gilmour. Doesn't mean I'm a huge Floyd fan.
Right.
But Dave Gilmour is my favorite living guitarist. I think he just plays all the right notes with such feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's at least saying acoustic music is like food for the soul. Do you feel that way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got your solo stuff you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you want to be? Which we want to talk about? Do you want to call out a solo project or anything that you're?
Do I want to?
Yeah, like right now, do you want to let folks know about your solo projects? Or?
Well, I'm doing that show that you mentioned. I'm trying to write another album. I've got a couple of solo albums out, and yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
I'm open to anything, you know. I find if you're trying to write something and you sit there trying to squeeze it out, it doesn't happen. And a good tune can happen very quickly.
Very quickly.
Very quickly.
Very quickly. I love
because
that.
it just flows in no time. You write poetry, maybe you find the same. You don't sit and force it out, I don't think. But maybe all the times that you play or think about it, something is happening subconsciously. And then suddenly you get this idea.
Yeah.
And it all flows out pretty quick.
Yeah, it's like the Tao Te Ching calls it the non-ado.
Oh.
It's the idea that everything gets done without you trying to do it.
Yes.
And it's like that in music and artistry,
Yeah.
where there's not this egoic force. There's this just spiritual flow or universal flow when you're in the moment.
Yeah, and you don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, I practice the guitar for dexterity, and it's a motor skill, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to be writing all the time.
Right.
It just happens when it does.
It happens when it happens.
Absolutely.
So before we close out, I'd love you to play a couple more bars. What do you want to be known for, just personally in the music business? What do you want to be known for?
Oh God, I honestly don't know. Just lucky to be a guitarist. I mean, the thing about it is, as I was saying to you before we went on air, I never liked being told what to do as a boy. If I had, I could have joined the army, couldn't I? I had a bright red-faced drill sergeant with the veins in his neck bulging, yelling in my ear that I'm a horrible little man. But that didn't appeal to me. Yeah. So being a musician, you didn't really have that. I always wanted to travel, and I've seen the world. And I did it by touring. So you get to interact and meet people. And the thing about anything, there will always people that might be slightly better or worse. But the thing about the guitar is it's not technically, you know how you get people interviewed and see that do all this, but it doesn't move you emotionally. It's pointless. Music is emotion. And if you can touch some people sometime, then you're doing your job. And if I'm ever at a gig and I look down and there are people smiling, then I think, God, I'm doing what I'm supposed to. You're making people happy in that moment because you're connected.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Oh, really?
So, yes, I did. I had a feeling. I just, before the interview, I get these downloads. I just had a feeling you were going to say, when I look out into the audience and I see somebody smiling, and you said it.
Yes, that moment.
Is that
it's that thing at that moment that you suddenly think you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You know?
Well, are you willing to do that now while I go get the art piece? Just play it.
I feel what I'm supposed to do. I'll play the guitar.
Yeah, just a couple bars and I'll be right back. Bravo!
That gave me just
Bravo.
enough time to go to the other end of the studio and get that piece of artwork. So
Yes, this has been a great time. Please share this with someone. This will be up for the video playback. We'll get it up on the podcast. I know we're going to have a lot to take from this. This has just been a great time. Whether you're a music lover or not, there's just so much to take away.
yeah, I might put people off music forever just then.
No,
I used to like music. Now I don't.
No, I think that, and also you teach the guitar, so there's just so much here.
Mm.
Connect with Nigel. Let me share this real quick before we get into I'm going to share the event that he's doing that you can definitely learn about that. I'm going to share the screen here. It's called Laughs and Lyrics. Let's see if we can pull this up.
If anyone wants to learn the guitar, by the way, I'm the man to teach you.
There you go.
But I don't teach you theory like how to read music. I'll teach you hands-on how to get good sounds out of the guitar, the hands-on rock and roll method.
There you
not
go.
Conventional.
I think that's the way that I would want to learn. And who knows? Maybe I'll take you up on
Hey.
that. But here it is, everybody. Laughs and Lyrics, musician Nigel Bennett and comic Steve Cooper, one night only. And there you can see Cheryl's name down there. That's Nigel's wife. It's Saturday, March 30th from 6 to 10:30 p.m. It looks like tickets are $20. Medford's really close. So, hey, I know you'll have a good time between the music and the comedy. I'm sure it'll be a great, great time. So I'm just grateful to spend some time here with Nigel. Thank you for being here. Again, if you're on the podcast, go over to the YouTube channel, Austin J. Haines, at Austin J. Haines. And if obviously you're on the video, make sure you go subscribe to the podcast. It helps me out. We're growing this thing. We're going to get great guests on there.
Yeah.
So, all right, Nigel. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
There we go.
Been a pleasure.
All right, everybody. Bye for now.